Welcome back to Heather's Hide. Starting on a new series with 22 ammunition. Been doing a lot with the 22 PRS and bench rest shooting, but now we're going to start to see just how good can we make this ammunition. Of course, not reloading 22 long rifle at all, just buying it in different lots, and from the very cheapest Thunderbolt all the way up to the very highest in Ely and Lapua and different brands like that. And so we're going to start with what I think is probably the absolute cheapest bulk ammunition you get. This is a brand new box. Well, I've had it a couple years, but not opened before. Just bulk 500 rounds. So this should be, and it's Thunderbolt, right? So it should be about the worst of the worst. This is a good plinking ammunition. I shouldn't complain too much. I mean, it's cheap, relatively speaking. Even today, when you can find it, this will be about the cheapest you can find. But it is inherently not accurate. And so what we're going to do in this series is we'll take one of these, one brand and type each time we do this, and we'll shoot it just as it is. Then we're going to weight sort this ammunition. And of course, there's a lot of bit to that, right? Where you're sorting based on the mass of the bullet change, the powder fluctuation, the case, the primer. Even the wax on the surface of these can change, and that'll affect your mass. So people sort by mass, but I'm just not sure how effective that is with all those different variables in there. But we'll see. Then what we're going to do also is we're going to sort by case rim thickness. That's how 22 long rifle head spaces in the rifle is by the rim thickness. And so we're going to measure and sort with this tool, this Raven Eye rim thickness measuring gauge. Now, I've never used this. I just bought it. We'll see how it works, but we'll use that to sort. Then what we'll do is a combination of these two. So we'll look through statistics that we're going to use here in Excel. I'm going to go through 50 pieces. We're going to get the mean or the average, the median, the centered value of the whole range. Where's the center? The mode, which is the most commonly occurring number. And then we're going to look at we'll look at one standard deviation, how much that is varying statistically. Then we'll look at plus or minus 3 sigma. That's statistics, so we can understand on a bell curve where we're going to get the majority of the population. Well, the flyers would fall well outside of this, and we would be pretty solid with our numbers there on where that range really will fall with this ammunition. So in the end, then, what we're going to do is we're going to shoot groups. Okay, we'll shoot maybe, I'll have to see how these numbers work out. Maybe 3 groups, the low end, the middle, and the high end on mass. The same thing, low end, middle, high end on rim thickness. And then the combination of those, maybe we'll pick the ones with the least variation. Okay, so the most tightly grouped of the mass, the most tightly grouped of the rim thickness, the combination of those together, and we'll shoot that. So we'll be shooting quite a bit of each round of these. But let's go ahead and get started then, and let's take a look at our mass sorting. All right, to do our mass sorting, we're going to start. I just grabbed a handful out of the box, and we're going to use our Maxis Dante scales. Now, as I do with powder loading, I'll load these side by side against each other and check them. So this is 52.3 and 52.28. So we'll call that 52.3. We'll keep these maybe by half grain increments. So we'll keep them separate here. We'll check them for a while against each other. 51.878, we'll call it 51.8, and 51.8 there. So that's a pretty significant shift. That's a half a grain shift there. So we'll separate those. We'll see how they come out. 51.8. 51.8 going to be in our lightest groups here. So I'll continue through this. I know this part will be pretty boring. I'll continue through this, take these numbers, we'll speed the video up a little bit, and then we'll come back and look at the numbers. All right, so here's the results of our mass sorting. I've done a 30-piece study and applied plus or minus 3 sigma, look for our median or our mode, and so we see here, this is our average or our median, so just about 52, and then we see our median, which is the most common, or the middle, the middle of the distribution. It happens to be very close, 52. The mode is the most common occurring value, and that is very close to 52, but it has actually shifted slightly down to 51.8. And you see then the data is actually slightly shifted this way in the population. Standard deviation, 0.235 grains, and then our plus or minus 3 sigma value. So statistically, all parts would, for the most part, would fall within this range of 51.26 and to 52.67 or 52.7. So what does this mean to us? Well, it gives us the idea of how the ammunition is varying in this particular box, in this particular lot. But what we're going to do for our mass sort is we're going to look at this yellow box. This is the middle of the distribution. Okay, so we're going to go from 52.8 to 52.2. And we're going to say, okay, the majority will fall in this range. And I'll mass sort now 10 rounds of each one for that. In fact, what I'll end up doing is mass sorting more than that for each one later on, because then I'll also subsort for rim thickness. All right, now that we've done our statistics, we're going to go ahead and sort by weight. And we're going to get several of these sorted so that we can shoot from these. We can also then use them to sort rim thickness within these weight ranges later on. So based on our statistics, we're going to take a box of below 51.8, whatever falls below that number, whatever then falls within 51.8 to 52.2, and then whatever is greater than 52.2 will go in that box. So I'll do this sorting. We'll do it off camera. It's going to just take a while. And then we'll get back and we'll take a look at our rim thickness sorting. I got our Raven Eye rim thickness measuring gauge set up here. If you like this, I have no affiliation with them, but it's raveneyecustom.com. And you can go to their Facebook or website and check that out, either one. So what you simply do is you have an option to put a dial indicator in here. My dial indicator, the shaft's too long and it would not really fit in here, but that could be a nice option, but this certainly works well. So what you do then is you put your caliper in here and you tighten down the set screw. You make sure you're square down here, you just tighten this up and then zero it out. So then you slide your live ammunition in here, and now you're measuring, if you can see that well, maybe that background might help a little. You'll see the thickness of the case is all that's being measured, or the head, the thickness of the head is all that's being measured. So 41.5 thousandths. So we'll continue to go through these here, and we'll see we'll do the same thing. We'll run the stats, we'll see what the distribution is, and then if it's not super tight, then we're going to see, okay, 41.5, exactly the same. Then we'll just sort for flyers. We won't have to do multiple groups in there. Right there is 40.5. So so that's that's 1.5 thousandths lower there on that one. So it could very well be that the thickness around the diameter is not consistent. So let's try that out. Here's one position, 38.5. I'll spin the case, 39.5. 38.5. So there is a thickness variation, or perhaps a flatness. The head could be bent slightly within that range. We'll call that 39.039. All right, I'll continue through this, and then we'll take a look at the stats. All right, so we sorted 30 cases to our statistical study, and this is the result of that. So we have a mean or an average of 0.04, or 40 thousandths of an inch thickness on that rim thickness. So, but the mode, the most common one is 043, and you'll see that there's a little bit. You can see these on the scene where there are multiple hits. There are darker shadows underneath it. It just simply is their way of indicating there's more than one value at that point. Our standard deviation then is 0.002, so it's varying 2 thousandths. So if we look at it statistically, how are we going to catch the majority of these? We're going to go up and down. 0.02 times 3, so it will be a high here of 47 thousandths, or a low of 34 would be statistically what would be possible. And our data kind of shows some of that, right? So we're not down to 34 because we only have populations within 30 pieces, but it could occur. So nonetheless, I decided to take our center window that we're going to sort for of 0.04 to 0.043. That should give us enough of a population in this area that we should see a difference, and we'll screen out these really thick ones, and then we'll screen out the really thin ones. Now, on either one of these, the mass or these rim thicknesses, I'm only breaking them out into 3 groups in general. you could break them much finer. So we'll look for a general change. If we don't see some results from that, well, maybe we can go finer. But I just got to break it into reasonable chunks. Otherwise, I'll be shooting all day and 15,000 hours for each video. So I'll go ahead and get these sorted. We'll make it into our 3 groups just like we did with our mass, and then we'll go. We'll sort. We'll sort one weight range. I think what I'll do here is sort the 51.8 to 52.2 and sort for rim thickness, and we're going to sort it just to one value, and we'll probably sort 0.043, and we'll take some out of there and we'll see if then a weight sorted and a rim thickness sorted ammunition will make a difference. So let me finish that up and then we'll hit the range. 10 shots. Welcome back in from the range. Taking a look at our results now. Of course, you have seen, and I'll show again, the graphs that I used to sort this data with. But if we looked at statistically, where would these different weights fall? In this case, the mass sorting results. And so I grouped them into 3 main groups that sort of had a relationship to that bell distribution curve. So where we'd find the most, which would be this range, 51.8 grains to 52.2 grains. Where we'd find then a lesser group that sort of takes us off the lower side of the bell curve, and that's less than 51.8 grains. And then the opposite side, the high end, and that was 52.2 grains. You'll find that by far the data shows the vast majority falls in here, and so their target must be somewhere around 52 grains for mass production. Now, what did the results say? Well, if you look at the 51.8, not a bad grouping. Again, I'll show the stats here just after this, but certainly larger than this medium range of 51.8 to 52.2. That's, not bad for a bulk ammunition. Of course, all this is at 50 yards. And then greater than 52.2, well, then we see them open up again. But the key thing, now these are not, I did these as 10-shot groups, so you can't run from 10-shot groups. A lot of people do 3, and there's a lot of error in 3. I shoot a lot of 5 because there's good data at 5, but from 10 there's usually nowhere to hide. You'll find a problem somewhere, and that's what we've seen here. So we see some start to fly out and the groups start to open up a bit, especially above 52.2 grains. Now, of course, we don't know, is the bullet overweight? Is the powder weight overweight here? Is the case just thicker? Is the primer maybe a little hotter, a little more primer in it? We really don't know, but we do know that the mass changed. And so we can see then a result here. But certainly then when we screen out in this range, they tighten up. Now maybe we could screen that finer, and maybe I will in the future, I don't know. This is enough though to tell me that there is some value in mass sorting. Okay, so now let's take a look at the combination of the 2. Well, here's the combination of the 2 then. So, excuse me, let me back up. We'll talk first about the rim thickness. So here's the rim thickness results for a Thunderbolt. So here we had greater than 43 thousandths rim thickness. And of course we're using our Raven Eye rim thickness comparator here. And so I sorted them greater than 43 thousandths, less than 40 thousandths. And then by far, statistically, the average is falling in from 40 to 43. And so if you look at this data, yeah, rim thickness alone, yeah, it's just I'm not sure it really helps. It helps a little maybe, and we'll talk about that here why. So this group and this group, I think you could argue, are very similar in size, although we have one dropout here. Of course, now this is not sorted for powder, just rim thickness. So greater than 43 here, perhaps you could argue is a tighter group. Less than 40, okay? A little bigger group, but look at the mean or the average range here, 40 to 43. Well, kind of grouping here, but then we have some flyers out here. Now, are those flyers rim thickness? No, I'll show you why. Because when we sorted with the mass that you just saw, we had better results separating out, groups. But look at what happens when we combine them. So what I did was I took the average of both. So this is sort of where the manufacturer's runs are targeted, or at least in this lot. This is where they're falling the most. And so that is from 40 to 43 thousandths rim thickness here. And so that's this result, our largest from rim thickness sorting. But then from the powder, or the mass of the case and bullet and powder, 51.8 to 52.2, and that was our average group back before. Now look at the group. Now this is an improvement over the bulk, and this did screen out virtually all the flyers, I would think, for this ammunition's capability. So there is some value in combining these things. When you sort of screen these things out and say, okay, I didn't sort by mass here, and I see a group change, I think there's some value here looking at greater than 43, but with this powder or this mass range here. So there is some value in this, and you can certainly improve, a generic bulk round by just sorting them out. Save the other stuff for the kids. Let them plink with stuff that it's not going to be going anywhere near a target that you really have to hit precisely. So pretty good results when you combine rim thickness and mass sorting on Thunderbolt ammunition. This is like, generically, without doing any thickness sorting or anything like that, that's what CCI standard velocity will shoot. And so that's a pretty good thing. So we'll be looking at lots of other brands of ammunition in 22 and doing the same kind of study. It takes a while to do the study, but we'll do the same kind of study and check it, because our results are certainly pointing out that, okay, there's a small benefit in rim thickness sorting. There's a bigger benefit in mass sorting. And then when you combine them, you are screening out all those flyers and tightening up your groups. So very encouraging results on our bulk cheap ammunition check, and some simple things you can do. So if you don't have a rim thickness sorter, well, they're not too expensive. I don't remember exactly what it is, 20 something bucks maybe. But you can start by sorting by mass, and you can do that right there and get pretty good results. And then, if you want to get even better, well, then buy yourself a comparator. There's different types. This is one I just happened to find. I think I bought that off eBay, off of Amazon. But nonetheless, pretty good results. One final comment, though, before we close this video out, is take a look at just the average here of warming up and practicing. Now, what this is since I had sorted and there were so many that fell into this mass range, all I did was shoot those to warm up, because I had a lot of them. To sort to get some of these other small mass, the other two mass ranges, I had to sort a lot of bullets, an awful lot of bullets. That's why we can say there's more room to sort within this weight range here. But nonetheless, just by sorting by mass only, look at the groups it did. They just started going to one ragged hole. Now, there are still flyers out here, and this shows that you can eliminate some of those. So, you can imagine maybe the next step, and maybe I'll do it, maybe one of you would like to do it too, is combine this. So take this 40 to 43 thousandths rim thickness range, maybe tighten it up. I don't think so. I think what I do is take that range and maybe shoot very tightly in this range and narrow out some of these bullets, because you'll have a lot more bullets to fall into that weight range. So anyway, pretty cool results. Can you take a cheap ammunition and make it shoot better? Well, you can by sorting out the bad rounds in that bulk run, or the rounds that will certainly give you less than stellar results. So hopefully you find it useful. We'll do this on other ammunition. I hope you enjoy it. If you do, please give me a like and a subscribe.